Hello, my name is Lizzi Bougatsos, and I am an artist and experimental musician living in New York.
I'm Emily Nam. We are art people.
We would improv, and you would have to own the space. So there was this risk that you have to put yourself out there. You have to sort of walk this tightrope. That's how I always envision myself when I step on the stage, on this tightrope. And you could either fail or you could own it. And I used to talk to Kim Gordon about that because we've been talking about it. To have, like she said, you have this like platform, and if you don't own it, you fail, and that's the ritual that you have to prepare for when you get to the stage.
In today's conversation, I've been brightened in speaking with Lizzi Bougatsos, a self-termed noise girl. Born in Queens and growing up in New York City, Lizzi has continuously had a powerful presence on the experimental music scene. Lizzi has been a core member of Gang Gang Dance, formed I.U.D with Sadie Laska, Angel Blood with Rita Ackermann. She plays drums, vocals, writes lyrics, makes ice sculpture and ceramics. And what I found humbling after speaking with Lizzi was, alongside her creative life, is that she has an innate ability in forming connections and building relationships with her kin, through connecting in art, music, performance, words, and life. With a generosity of spirit that is unleashed when she performs, Lizzi has presented her work globally with groups, in collaboration and as art performance at spaces including Bergen Kunststol in Norway, Pace Gallery, Tramps, and James Fuentes in New York City, and with Gang Gang Dance at venues including the Sydney Opera House, the Museum of Modern Art New York, and Fuji Rock in Japan. She is an integral force in our continually evolving creative conversation. I hope you can enjoy our dialogue. Hi Lizzi, I'm really excited to be meeting with you today. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I feel that you're in this stage of your career and life, maybe without knowing you, that there's this full embodiment of self and understanding of creative expression. And I wanted to talk a bit about that with you today, the process of discovering your creative voice. So I want to start off, you grew up in Queens in New York.
I was born in Queens, but I was raised on Long Island. Mm-hmm.
Okay, nice. And your family influence of creativity and music, what was the environment like for you?
Well, my father was very entertaining. He wanted to be a singer, actually. And his father wouldn't let him. He told him that singing was for sissies.
Oh, wow.
That's pretty wild. Yes. So my father would tell a lot of jokes, and he said that his big story was that he wanted to be a singer, and you would go to this arena and you would try out and you would sing, and if the people liked you, they would throw roses at you, but if they didn't like you, they would throw tomatoes. And he claimed that everyone threw roses at him, and he came home from this like trial, in some amphitheater in Athens, and came back to his dad in the suit, and his dad said, what's going on with this suit, and he was like, well, I'm going to be a singer. And he said singing was for sissies, and you have to continue in the tradition of the family. So he became a shoe, like a cobbler. So yeah, a lot of people say that I lived his dream, because through my career, and he was very supportive of me being an artist. Like he was like the first when I became serious in visual art, he was so proud. And I remember I drew this like plants, but I drew it all psychedelic. And oh, and I wanted to be a fashion designer in high school, so I would draw all these different designs. I went to FIT, and he was so
Mm-hmm.
proud. He was just so into style. So he was always like, "Oh, Valentino." He would complain about Americans, how Canadians knew how to dress because they always wore black.
So your father grew up in Greece
Yes, Athens.
and then moved to New York.
He moved to Canada because he got out of the he wanted to get out of Greece, so he joined the army. He lied about his age, and then he went to go play football for a Canadian team, and he was really, really good. And there's this team called Fios in Greece, and they wanted him, but the team that he was playing with wouldn't give him up. So he lied about his age. He went to Canada, and he had to stop playing because the Greek team wouldn't give him up. So, yeah.
Wow.
It's a crazy story, yeah.
So were you singing at home, and sort of was there this training? Like, did you have a background in music training?
Well, I did play the clarinet, but I was last seat in high school, and my mom would make me practice all the time. My dad and I would sing a lot of Madonna songs, like our
Oh, cool.
favorite song was La Isla Bonita. That's our favorite song. Um, he was just always singing in the house. And I guess it really started for me in college because I started writing. I just saw that Yoko Ono had a song called Milk and Honey because I wrote this song in college called Milk and Honey. It was kind of a rap, and it was before Peaches did Fuck the Pain Away, like I would have had it was before that, but I feel like I would have had a whole nother career if I went in that kind of sphere. But it was a rap song, and it was very syncopated, and I started opening up for bands and in the local like punk club, and bands would come in from DC or like Philly, and I would just open up for them with spoken word. It was kind of like concrete poetry, crafted words and syncopated. And then the next thing I know, I was like driving back to New York City and doing readings and at restaurants. And so that's kind of how the music thing started. And then when I finally came back to New York, these guys from DC, they said they'd give me a drum kit if I would be the singer of their band, and I said yes.
This is now Gang Gang Dance.
That's not Gang Gang. These guys were in a band called ARE Weapons. They came from DC, and so did the guys from Gang Gang. And I actually met the guys from Gang Gang when I was performing solo by myself in Williamsburg. And I remember Nick from Yeah Yeah Yeahs was in the audience. I mean, it was like a scene, it was us, and then the guys from Gang Gang, two guys from Gang Gang. They were in this band called The Cranium, and then the guys from ARE Weapons, and we all had this show. And then I met Tim, who was the original drummer from Gang Gang, and the guys from DC, they all just moved after that show. They all moved here, and then Tim moved in with me, and it was just Gang Gang started in another way. It was 2002. I used to show with this gallery called American Fine Arts, and I was very close with Colin DeLand. He was very supportive of Gang Gang, but before Gang Gang, he asked me to cover his late wife's songs, and her name was Pat Hearn, and she had a gallery in New York called Pat Hearn Art Gallery, and she had a band with John Lurie's brother, and it was kind of this like 60s kind of like pop, not like Pointer Sister, but like going like further back, but very jazzy. Like it sounded like Ludus to me, who was like a huge influence on me. And Ludus was also a very big influence on the Cranium, which was Gang Gang's, band before Gang Gang. And so I asked the guys in Gang Gang to back me up and sing these songs on Halloween at the memorial of Pat Hearn. And that's how Gang Gang started. That was 2002 Halloween.
And it feels like the way that you make music, or the music that you make, it's like ambient mixed with world music, but it's neither or anything defined. It's like you've all come together and created this beautiful incubator of sound that, had you not met, it's just required such a specific connection of people and skills and ideas and thinking about the world to come together in that moment is so rare. And like just those like moments of connection that happen to bring you together is quite amazing.
I know. And the feeling of when we started playing, I mean, it was wild. I mean, we didn't have any regard for the audience. Like sometimes I wouldn't even show up to the gigs. Like I remember there was a gig at Tonic, and I was working the Armory Art Fair with Colin, and it was fun, because American Fine Arts represented like John Waters, and like we just had this great crew in Art Club 2000, and it was just so fun. And yeah, some people would say, Colin DeLand was the Keith Richards of the art world. He was just fun. And so that we had a gig at Tonic, and I was working the art fair, and I was just having so much fun. I was like, oh, they could start without me. And they started, and I showed up in the middle of the gig, and my friend Rita grabbed the mic for me, Rita Ackermann, and she was like singing, and then I was like, I'm here. And I just like joined. I mean, it was amazing that it was, but after time, we were really, we had to give our craft everything, every single note was composed. And as an instrument, I had to be in harmony. Like that's how I saw myself, my vocals as an instrument, and it really had to be balanced. So at the end, I guess God's money, the listening, like we needed to have it at this level where it was listenable. And the crafts just had to be perfect and tight and composed. And that's how our sets were too. I mean, every note was very mathematical. Chemical, alchemical.
It feels improvised, but also completely balanced and fine-tuned, which is what gives it so much freedom and space. And then, how you're performing and just the freedom of it. It doesn't feel like you've composed it, but I understand it requires so much attention.
Yeah. It comes from improvising, for sure. It all came from improvisation, which is still my process.
Do you make scores? Did you make scores when you were composing music? Like, how was it performed?
I make vocal scores, but they're sort of, I saw Brian Eno's drawings once of his notations, and my notations are more like they're lines. I'm not classically trained, so it would be it would be like like it would be lines, like it looks like mountains, but so yeah, I did make notations and I have my own style with the words. But I'm not classically trained. I'm self-taught. Yeah. So they didn't have scores. This was all a live, you know, we would look at each other in the eyes. There would be this sort of like equator of
Intuitive
of
understanding.
eye
Yeah.
contact. Yeah, yeah. But I always had my notes and my songs because sometimes I would be so immersed in the moment that I would lose track of where my notations where they needed to be in balance. And also I had my vocal, like I used a guitar pedal for my
Oh, wow.
vocals the for years, and I would just duct tape it to the stand. So I was like working with these frequencies and pitches that they weren't natural anyway. So the combination of me, my delay had to be in perfect timing with the band. For example, like Before My Voice Fails, which is my favorite Gang Gang song. At the end, there's this crazy crescendo situation. If my delay was off, it would screw up the whole show. Like I had to be really on point. It was like, and then it was like, like it wasn't it. I recently sang in a silo that had a natural 8-second delay. It was incredible because I brought my effects. I've used so many vocal pedals. I've done so many experiments. But yeah, the silo canceled out every delay. So it was almost like silence. It was incredible. It was incredible.
Do you feel the voice is your instrument? Because I was watching some YouTube show of Gang Gang, which I haven't done a lot of. I've usually just listened to it. But you play the drums, and I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
I think about it made me think about taiko drumming and Japanese drumming and this kind of energetic expression.
That's exactly where it came from. We were
Oh
on
wow, yeah.
tour in Japan. Gang Gang was on tour in Japan, and we met OOIOO. We went on an Australian tour where we met OOIOO, and that is Yoshimi's band from the Yoshimi from the Boadrams. That was her other band, which was an all-female percussion band at the time. And they had another band. I have to remember the name, but there was another band that was all percussion. OOIOO was, I mean, talk about craft. That band is
Yeah,
incredible.
just
But they I mean, every note, everything is incredible, incredible. So basically, I saw the offshoot of OOIOO, and I met OOIOO, and all the members have their own band. So one of them is a percussion band, and we were okay. So there was the Australian tour where we became friends, and then we ended up in Japan touring, and of course, like Japan was they were the ones that really got Gang Gang. That was just like our sister country. And we were on the plane. I was on the plane back after we played with Boredoms, I think at Fuji Rock. And we started, yeah, we were just, that scene and us just became super immersed. And then on the, on the ride back, I was thinking, airplane ride. I did this like airplane test with myself because I did start drumming with Gang Gang. like in like 2007, I bought a pair of rototoms, and that was my drum. And I just started, like, I thought about OOIOO, and I thought about Yoshimi, and I thought, who can I play drums with? Who wants to, experiment with me? And then I reached out to my friend Sadie, who I heard she was playing drums. She was living in DC, and I heard she was going to move back to New York. And I said, do you want to play with me? So we kind of pulled a Ludus. We just like used all the gang stuff. And like, so Ludus is Linda Sterling, right? And she did all the record covers for like Joy Division. And so when Joy Division, she was friends with all of them. So when they were in the studio, she would, they would like get drunk and party, and she would use, like, they would leave, and they would have extra time. So she would use their extra recording time, and that's how she made her albums, right? So I was kind of pulling a Ludus with the gang stuff, but they were my biggest fans. Like, Tim was so integral to me drumming. And so I've been drumming for a really long time, and I had the best trainers. But recently, my friend Austin gave me lessons on how to hold the sticks, because all these years I've been, when I play, I get neck whiplash, and my wrists, like, I do the exercises, like, like, Yoshimi, like, Gang always had the best drummers, so I've been taught all the exercises, but I've never held the sticks right. So my friend Austin just kind of put me in check. So now I'm really doing it right, but I don't injure myself as hardcore as I used to. Yeah, so the drumming thing happened on the airplane. I just reached out to Sadie, and she moved, and then we just started playing. And I had all the gear, because Gang was always very rhythmic, and I have so much equipment. It's crazy. Cymbals.
Can you tell me about the event with Boadrum with the 080808 that you did?
Yeah, well, it was 7707 was they asked us to, so 7707, they gathered their favorite drummers, and we were the heart. Boredom's asked these like, we had this rehearsal, and it was the guy from Lightning Bolt, and Zach Hella, Death Grip Zach. I don't know, why am I spacing on his name right now? Zach Hill. So it was like Zach Hill, the guy from Lightning Bolt, Ryan Sawyer, who ended up playing with Gang later, Hisham from Black Dice, and then there was Tim. Actually, Tim didn't. Was Tim in 7707? I think so. I don't know if he was in 8808, because Tim got shot in the arm in Grand Rapids, Michigan. So he didn't play with us. I think it was 7707. So Boredom's had this concept that they were the heartbeat in the center, and the core 7 drummers were the snake that came out of the heartbeat, and I led the whole thing. And so, then, the 7 drummers, we were like on the outskirts, and then, there were 77. So, I mean, it was amazing. It was between 2 valleys, and in 8808, they asked us to lead the 88 drummers, and they were in Los Angeles. So we had video screens of each other. So like the time frame, it was at the same time that, so basically we composed this 88-minute set. I sang with 88 drummers. It was intense. I mean, we had this really great like Kate Bush beat, and I mean it was astounding. It was,
Would you do it again? Is this something that would happen?
I don't know. I don't know if we could do it again. It was about the energy of a certain time and space. And I mean, obviously it was very site specific. Yeah, I don't know if we could do it again.
Just one of those things that was in the moment.
I think so. I saw something recently that I did. He performed on like a construction tractor in Japan, and then I believe it was in water, where he was elevated on this like platform that was raised, and then it was almost like on a canal, and there were two lines of people playing cymbals. There were like 30 people and cymbals, and he was like on this construction thing. I remember he performed on different like platforms that were raised, or in the past it was almost like Rihanna in the Super Bowl. I can't believe she did that. I could never do that. As I got older, I get more scared of heights. I'm such a wimp now. I'm just like, I can't even climb a pyramid.
I don't even think they let you climb pyramids anymore. They're all closing them.
I know. I was in Mexico and I was the last person to climb this pyramid. They were gonna outlaw it.
In the Teotihuacan, the Sun Pyramid?
Not that one. I've been to that one.
Because I went there and you weren't allowed to climb it.
Really? When was that?
That was in January, so this year.
Oh, okay. Now, when I went there, we were allowed to climb it, but there was another one that I went to outside of Tulum that I was like the last person. But I only got to the middle of the pyramid, and I wimped out, and I sat there, and I just got so scared. And there was an 88-year-old man climbing way to the top.
Amazing.
Like, and I was just like, I'm done. I can't. Yeah, so that was wild.
I watched your performance of the symbols at Bergenkunststall, and I was
really?
thinking about your work, and maybe you don't climb heights, but you're very active, and your sound and your movement is created by this like physical expression. Does that feel like an outlet for you? Or I was thinking about this idea of like a vessel, and it feels that you're completely in this, like the lid is off, you're in your psychic power when you're on stage, and it's just allowed to, you have allowed it to come out. And I was wondering how, or that validation of letting yourself step into that place happened.
Wow. Well, okay. It started with Nathan Benjamin Maddox, who was a member of Gang Gang Dance, and he passed away. He went to watch the lightning storm on the roof, and the lightning hit him. Like it was after the Twin Towers. So the Twin Towers, they were gone. So if the Twin Towers were still up, the lightning would have not hit him. But he basically was like this magnet. So he was another singer in Gang Gang. It was like us, Animal Collective, Black Dice. Like we all started together. And after he passed away, he was a nomad. I mean, he was always looking for a different realm of life, but he was very like he would pay. He went to Egypt as soon like his grandfather passed away. He got an inheritance and he went straight to Egypt and he paid the guards to sleep in the tombs,
Wow.
after he passed away. Yeah, after he passed away. I mean, he was always speaking in Arabic and, he talk about concrete poetry. He had mottos like live free. Anyway, when he passed, he was an amazing human. I mean, he was a mystic for sure. After he passed, people from Cairo that he met came to meet me. They were just so like enamored by this being. It was really out of the world. But anyway, when he passed, I sort of thought, okay, I have to deliver his message to the masses. So that was my whole thing with Gang Gang and touring. Like I wanted to, so when I would get on stage, I would get in this place where I could be the vessel to like be delivered through his message. And his message was pure peace. Like he would never harm a fly, like this. If he saw a spider like by a tire, he would go to the tire and like save the spider. Like he would just sit there for an hour. Like this he was a beautiful being. But so that was the beginning. I wanted to spread his message. That was my whole. And then we would improv and you would have to own the space. So there was this risk that you have to put yourself out there. You have to sort of walk this tightrope. That's how I always envisioned myself when I step on the stage, on this tightrope. And you could either fail or you could own it. And I used to talk to Kim Gordon about that because we've been talking about it. To have, like she said, you have this like platform, and if you don't own it, you fail, and that's the ritual that you have to prepare for when you get to the stage. Like I have this whole ritual that I compare to the earth's elements, water, fire, air, release, earth, you have to ground yourself before. And then the air is sort of the communication. And yeah, if you don't own it, then you fail. So you have to go into it thinking that you'll own it. Because if you fail, then you've let yourself down and you've let the audience down. So I think that's how I would let myself be a vessel.
Were there other mentors?
Oh, other mentors. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I taught myself how to sing listening to Sinead O'Connor. You could really hear it in like before my voice fails. Like there's this, it's sort of like it sounds like an Irish, like arr, like you can hear it. But I mean, Linda Chirac was a major influence on me. She did this album with her husband at the time. Sorry, I'm spacing on it. I'm just getting lost in the image of the album cover. I think I have it here, but it's called Black Woman, and Sonny Chirac, that was her husband, but she did this album where it was like an exorcism. It's kind of like a Yoko, you know, it's just like this like complete exorcism. And she was that album Black Woman was a huge influence. Ludus was a huge influence. Actually, what made me want to become a singer was I saw the video of Genesis P. Orridge doing Discipline on video, and I think I was like 23, and it wasn't about the singing. It was about on stage, which is really interesting because that song is this repetitive, like, I want discipline. And recently I've kind of come back to that style of using few words as, because I always used to try to pack it all in but anyway, seeing Genesis at the time, we call them Genesis, but you know, on stage, on the stage, the song is like 30 minutes long, no, maybe like 15 minutes long, and he just makes out with this audience member, and that's what made me want to be a singer. I was like I want to be a singer. This is amazing, so then I was really into emo bands like Captain Jazz, and I actually made a zine on like emo core in college. And I was really fascinated with male singers that sounded like females because I wanted to sound like a male. I just thought it would be all encompassing, if I had it's almost like the two spirit in indigenous terms where male and female are together. So I always wanted to have a male voice so I could transcend being a woman. I wanted to be a humanist. I wanted to be in that, equator zone where you're a two spirit, you're one being. And so sort of in a Laurie Anderson way, how she did I kind of had this like Meredith Monk version of Laurie Anderson, but also, Yoko was a huge influence, but Linda Sharrock really started me on that. And so those were kind of my core, Alice Coltrane, of course.
Yeah, there's a lot of Alice Coltrane and universal consciousness feeling in Gang Gang. I mean, that's an amazing album.
Barrow Saunders. Yeah. I have a beautiful picture of him
nice.
Here. I could show you if you want to see it.
Yeah.
This is him and his wife. Who
oh, lovely.
Can you see it? He loved his wife. Anyway, that's him.
I was thinking about Meredith Monk because I've done a few of Meredith's workshops. I'm very into her way of performance.
Oh,
yeah, and I've just been doing. She had a film run at Anthology Archives this week, so she's been in my thoughts. And I was thinking about you and how you perform poetry and vocals, but they're non-verbal, even though they are. I know there's a language within them. There's very much in a way that Meredith doesn't articulate words. There's so much storytelling in the notation of sound and in how you perform. But you still write poetry and you still use lyrics. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah. I always wrote lyrics. They've always been words, but I think the singer that validated me, sort of having my own language. We would listen to everything from like pygmy chants to, bells from Tibetan monks, and we lived for Ethiopian music. We weren't like a typical indie band, like we had so many influences, so vast. But so when I would sing words, the only thing that could validate that I could validate myself with was Elizabeth Fraser from Cocteau Twins, because nobody ever knows what she's saying. And so because nobody ever knew what I was saying, but they were always words. And that's how I actually taught myself how to play the drums on the rototoms. Like I would take a song, like let's say like rhythm is gonna get you, That's how I would learn tones, like rhythm is gonna get you. So even when I'm singing vocals or playing drums, that's how I'm thinking about them. Like, um, if you listen to First Communion or again before my voice, before I fail, like anyway, there's always words. Yeah, there's always words there. I've always been super influenced. Like my main guy was Pasolini, actually. Pasolini, that's all I was reading when we wrote God's Money.
And there is a story behind the words when you're performing and the songs? I mean, I think even the names of the songs are quite powerful.
Yeah, the songs, they're not like, for example, Nico Man. It's not about me. It's about other people that have that, so that song is actually about, some of the songs are about 3 or 4 different people. Like Nico Man is about 2 people. She shows me my senses, the way the sea has risen. They bring me to my senses. There were 2 people that would sort of keep me in check so I wouldn't, you know, fall under the tightrope. So that's kind of what Nico Man was about, but also my register. My true register is very low,
Oh, really?
actually. Yeah. Well, I wanted to tell you another story very quickly because I took a Meredith Monk course during the
Oh,
pandemic,
cool.
and I accidentally had my computer on, so it wasn't
Yeah.
it wasn't muted. And I took the exercise so seriously. She heard me. I think she got totally freaked out because I went for it so hardcore. Anyway, that was really funny. I don't know why I just went in that story.
They were weird though. I did one of them online, and yeah, because there'd be so many
Did
people.
you?
Yeah, but you were on silent, so that's funny.
I know, I know. I just like watched her reactions.
They would have been honored.
It's like I really freaked her. I really freaked her out. But I was trying to tell you something else, but I forgot where I was going. But
I think we're talking about voice performance and just the being of the sound.
oh yes. So yeah, so register. Okay, so I there was Golgoroth, who has this like male operatic, death metally voice, but it like all it's very deep, and we were asked to cover a Nico song, so we went straight to her electronic album, and all those songs are in a very deep register, and I never knew that that was my actual register, because when I was in chorus in grade school, I was told that I had a very high register. Not anyway. So when we were covering her songs, my bandmates were just like, "Oh my god, this is like you're gonna make me cry. Like this is your real register." And so that has just been this thing that I've been exploring recently. because my friend from Cat Power, she asked me to sing a song for her 50th birthday party. She asked me to cover Black is the true color of my true love's hair, but the Patty Waters version. Do you know Patty Waters? Um, wow.
Have you done something before of her work?
I haven't done her work, but I've covered Mary Margaret O'Hara, who is very similar to Patty Waters because when I was talking about the exorcism, you know, her version of that song, literally like Nick Cave, and you know, everybody compares that song of her, like it's so dark, like she's having an exorcism. And when Sean asked me to sing that song, it just kind of like, it just brought me back to my true register. But I gave this like noise version in this empty cabin in Atlanta. I mean, it was wild. But that kind of got me on this tangent. So I started writing this piece called Bird Swallow, and I put the piano to it. I have a baby grand in my studio now. That was actually the bass players of Richard Hell and the Voidoids. I know, it's crazy. I have a crazy archive. I mean, I even have Yoko Ono's dress that I put in the museum show that I did with Lonnie Holly recently because, you know, everyone always compared me to Yoko. I mean, back in the day, my voice was so strange, you know, like they had nobody to compare me to. They would say Bjork. I mean, of course I love the Sugar Cubes but you know, everyone was lazy, you know, nobody back in the day, 2002, they didn't know who Kate Bush was, or, you know, my friend actually showed up at my door one day and brought me a stack of Kate Bush CDs. And she was like, she reminds me of you. So I knew about Kate Bush because Tim DeWitt, the original Gang Gang member and drummer, he had The Dreaming on CD around the house. But I had some I was kind of mad at him because he was always trying to tell me what to do and like push people on me. So when he would leave the house, I would listen to The Dreaming like constantly. But I never showed him that I would. I was very proud, very proud. Yeah, so it did. I mean, The Dreaming is such a great album. But yeah, so a lot of people would compare me to Yoko. But I was also there are a lot of Kate Bush, you know, the drama in our compositions. I mean, that we do have a song called Desert Storm. Like you're almost like at war. Gang Gang was always at war with themselves when we would get on the stage. It was like we would have to take a military approach. I always felt like I had to dress like a man when we would go on tour. Like I would never wear skirts because I would always collect the money at the end of the show. And, you know, I was a female and they treated me different, you know, when I would try to collect the money. And at the time, I only had my vocal pedal, but over time I accumulated all these drums. I mean, I've had, you know, bongos. I mean, my drum thing it just was out of control. Cymbals. So after a certain amount of time, I had as mumuch to break down that the guys had, you know, electronically and physically. So we had to bring someone to collect the money because I just couldn't do it anymore. I just had too much gear. But yeah, it was a really interesting time in the beginning because, like, even with I.U.D, I set my drums up in a certain way. It's definitely in a Zen, it's a feng shui thing. If something is off and I can't move my body, that's why I like even wear things that don't, you know,
Interfere.
constrict me
Yeah.
because I need to, interfere. So yeah, like I remember we set up I.U.D set up at the Swiss Institute once, and the sound guys, they're always like, oh, you think you're Madonna? Like you could just like, or they compared me to somebody. I don't know if it was Grateful Dead even, but they were making fun of me how I set it up, and then at the end we would always like win them over, because we were just so weird. I think.
I feel like there's this like not in a negative way, but not fitting in, but holding your space so clearly and not really being concerned, just as you're saying, like everyone loves you in the end, but not being concerned about how people react to you. It's like you were able to create this space of just being in how you needed to be. I think that's really lovely. And maybe it was the time, or maybe it was the people that you had around that were all supportive of that. We weren't so focused on like the
It
outward
was.
need for validation. And
No, it was a really, it was a very experimental time in New York. We shared a practice space with Black Dice and Animal Collective, and at the time, Dave, Aviter, and Eric had a a, a project. And so, we would go into practice and we would listen to each other's practices. Like if we were like, if we were overtime and the other band would come in, we would be out like listening to each other. So there was definitely this physical support. And now, yeah, there's a time in the space where my music is landing, and it's not the same support, but it is there. But it's not like as physically, it's not like you're the sister country or you're, the sister street, but the support still is there. For example, my studio now, we another musician is on the floor now, and I'm so happy because it feels like that moment in time where you would leave the practice space and somebody else would be playing. Like then, back in the day, it was like us, Black Dice, TV on the radio, Interpol, TV on the radio. Like, it was just a great mix of we kind of all grew up together, and then some, I don't know, it just now, now I'm lucky. I have Moses Sumney on my floor. Do you know Moses
that's
Sumney?
chill. Yeah.
He's on my floor. So it really inspired me to bring my PA over. I think I'm going to go bring my PA over.
Yeah. And I think you've got,
yeah.
Like I feel you must have become a family with Gang Gang. Like that support network. You can go out and do anything. Your own projects, and they're there.
Thank you for saying that. It took me, yeah. I mean, Gang Gang had an hiatus I took a hiatus when my partner and I in the band separated, and when we couldn't play, I could never play with Gang Gang if we were separated. It was almost like Gang Gang was our love story in a way. But yeah, it became a family. I mean, when we did the Australian tour and when we met OOIOO, they had their kids on tour, and I just remember thinking to myself, like, oh, this is how I want my life to be. Like when if I have a child, they're gonna come on tour with me, and but it was always so hard to be in a band. Like, I mean, we never even considered ourselves a band, but now that it's 25 years, I mean, we're not playing together now. Um, but we are a family. But again, yeah, we haven't played together for a while because my partner and I split up again. um, so, but we always, yeah, that was the model, and I realized later in life that Gang Gang was my baby. Gang Gang became my baby, and the true love, um, the black and the color of my true love's hair was my father.
Oh, lovely.
My father passed away, and that yeah, and I realized that when I was doing that song live in Denver. I realized, oh, he was the one with the black hair. But yeah,
That's
there,
beautiful.
yeah.
Do you see yourself doing more independent projects? I know you do things. You've done gallery performances, and you, as you said, you're invited by people to do things. But do you want to create your own project or body of work as a voice performer?
Yes, I do. I mean, I've been writing this bird swallow piece for a long time. I did sing it as a work in progress in the silo in Buffalo that had that 8-second natural delay
Mm-hmm.
that I told you canceled out my electronic effects. But yeah, I've been working on it, and recently I visited the studio that Ennio Morricone recorded at, like all the soundtracks from the movies, and Brian De Palma, and like every David Lynch film. And I was invited to record there. And so yeah, this is something that I'm thinking about. A few years, like a year ago, or I was making music with this really amazing artist, and also he's a drummer as well, like a jazz drummer. And we were making these tracks that were so early Gang Gang, so early I.U.D, like just this raw language where you pick up anything, and it's a percussion instrument. Like when we first formed, we didn't have money, so we would just play street objects, like cans. And yeah, so yeah, the family thing changed over time, but it's still there.
Yeah, I think it's still there to just nourish who you've become, or continuing to
Yeah,
have that safety.
yeah, it's when you're in a band with other people, the safety net is there. You're relying on each other. So like the first time I took a hiatus, I just dove deep into myself, and I did this piece. That's when I covered Yoko songs at the Hirshhorn, and that's when I did the cymbal performance in Bergen. And recently I performed at the Bourse de Commerce. I ended up headlining that show in Paris, and yeah, I don't know. I needed to get my confidence back, because when you have a band, you have members, and you walk on the stage as if you're in the same army. But when you're walking out there alone, it's very much like you have to own it. So yeah, my new hiatus, that's where I'm at. But it I was told I needed to get an ego, and and it's been scary. Like I ran into my friend Alex from Earth Eater. Do you know
Mm-hmm.
her? And I was like, Alex, do you ever perform alone? Like I've just been performing alone. And she was like, Lizzie, she was like, because I was nervous about this performance in Berlin, where it was the first time I was gonna perform alone in a really long time. And she was like, "You're Lizzi Bougatos." She was
Yeah.
like, "You could take a shit on stage." and I was like, "Oh, this is great." I was like, it really helped me build the ego, like get an ego, Lizzie, get an ego. So now I'm that every time I think about, because sometimes I would hibernate and I would forget about everything that I've done in the world. And I could tell you, like, after the Boredoms, after 8808, I was like, I can die and be happy. I could know that
Sure.
I've done everything in my life on this earth that I've ever needed to do. And you know, I don't know. I still feel like that, but yeah, what Alex said really, really helped me, because I know I established this platform, and I know that we were never a typical band. We've always really went out of our way to curate like who would open up for us and develop these amazing relationships with musicians that you know became our kin. So yeah, we that's always been a huge part of Gang Gang, was to have this platform to seek out.
Now that you've got this sort of self inquiry and making work as your own person, have you got a ritual or some kind of practice to create space and have that container built for yourself to make work?
Yeah, my friend that I was playing music with kind of taught me this thing about sound pollution. I mean, that's how there's this thing like sound pollution and visual pollution, which I sort of started seeing. I got very affected by sounds. I'm so affected by sounds now that if I get in a taxi, I ask them to play, the jazz station, because it's really what links me to New York. Like it's an enlightenment. I learned it from my friend Austin, because we would play a show and then we'd get in the car, and then it would just change everything, to put on jazz rather than have this like noise pollution. So he kind of gave me this like new awakening to every day, waking up, making the coffee, putting on, like sometimes I put on this Milford Graves record, or this Sun Ra in Egypt record, just to like, or I'll burn something to get me in the space. I don't really listen to other music. I mean, besides trying to get into that zone. I don't When I'm making music, I don't listen to music. But yeah, the ritual, I just have to be alone. I have to be alone. And I can't like have things in the space that visually distract me. So there's like visual pollution and sound pollution. And the ritual is very much about trying to focus on hearing the synchronicity of the space. Like I often compare it to a volcano erupting as well, because you could stand next to lava And if you step into the lava, you could completely die, but it's right there, any moment you could, you could be run over or uh, so really improvisation is the key to life. I mean, also the volcano movie that came out, what is it called? Fire Within, or was that the Herzog version? There's two there's a volcano, two volcano researchers that dedicated their life. There were a couple, and they made a movie, and then but they used this volcano footage that was in this library in Paris, like the only footage that
Wow.
existed, and then Herzog used the same footage and made his own movie about volcanoes. But the one that the couple made, I was very drawn to. I just whenever I'm cinema is my thing. Like, whenever I'm in the theater or I'm at home, I'm constantly writing. It could be the shittiest show, or I mean, I'm a movie freak. I'm a movie freak, but that's like during that movie, I wrote so many lyrics. I so much identified it. It was almost like it was like a love song. It was the same thing of the two people, how they communicate. They look at this rock, this like molten rock. And the thing about like fire is something that I'm always super drawn to. It's my favorite thing in the world to watch a fireplace. But I remember when Saint Dymphna came out, we just got on Warp. It was a very exciting time. Like, people were psyched. Our first show was the Paradiso, and they were going to have a party after we played. And me being a New Yorker, I was like, well, we can't leave all our gear on the stage. Like, what if people steal it? And the club was like, oh no, nobody's ever stole anything. So I was like, I don't trust anybody. Nothing's ever gotten stolen by anyone in Gege because I'm such a freak about this stuff. But I've changed. I have to tell you, I've changed. Now I'm not scared anymore. But we put all of our equipment in. I made everyone put the equipment in this closet. The closet caught fire, and everything was burned, and we had like Nate's flute, and
Oh
I
no.
could still see the ashes. Yeah, I could still see the ashes. And so we were staying at this like hotel that like looked like a stage. I mean, it was so traumatizing because everyone was so geared up for this. And the tour was canceled, and we're in Amsterdam. Everyone is so depressed. I had to talk to lawyers. Like, it was so intense. I gathered the ashes. Like, I have the ashes. Like, I have the burnt flute. I have all the burnt, like, all our burnt gear that I could gather. I just have it. I could still smell it. You could look at the flute, you could look at the ash, and you could smell, like, it's intense. I tried to get the burnt equipment. I tried to get it shipped to New York so we could show it with the Gang Gang archive. I have this crazy archive. I have a personal archive. I have Gang Gang archive. New York, I have a crazy. So,
Instruments are also emotional. You have a relationship. So it is a grief and a death.
yes, there is. I was just given a bass clarinet, and yeah, I saw this recent sax player. Oh, what was his name? Oh, I saw him at 411.
Oh, yeah, that was such a great space.
I love that space, right? There was this sax player that just, he basically he was like air, like at the end, so emotional. It was just so emotional that it was almost like he was like dying. This, like the air was running out of the lungs. The the wind was ending with his reed. Like it was just so incredible. So incredible. I'll have to remember his name and we'll have to get something James. But wow, yeah. The bass clarinet is bringing me back into that too, I think. I mean, playing the piano has gotten me very, it's always been my favorite thing to listen to. Is my ex-partner is pianist, composer, and it's just always been this thing around me that so I recently acquired the piano so I could just, and it's been very emotional. I'm very like syncopated with the keys. It's just, I love it. I'm a closet piano. I play it like it's a closet thing, and
it's just nice to do.
Yeah, we'll see if it comes out.
Do you write and then compose from the words, or does the melody come, or do you have some sort of system for creating your work?
I write all the time. Like I just write all the time, and when I get into the studio, I bring all the notebooks, and then as of recently, I write on my phone in the notes thing. So, and usually I write like lyric or words, lyrics. So when I get into the studio, like I recently did it, I recorded on a track that my friend Rusty, he just got it in his head that I'm like the new Kim Gordon. So he invited me over to sing on a track that he was making for Young Lean. And I went in, I brought a few notebooks, but really everything's on my phone. And I just like gathered some of the words and made a chorus on the spot. And then I was there for an hour and I recorded all the things. And then I only had an hour, and then I left. And then a few hours later I came back and he mixed it down. That's kind of how I work. That's the best way I work. He was like, you're a rapper. You work like a rapper. He was like, please give me 2 hours of time, but I only had an hour and I did it, So I'm really about that. Like it's even with sculpture, like that's something I actually recently learned from Lonnie Holly. It's this thing I always talk about, but Lonnie has like one chord that he ripped apart and used every part of this like electronic chord to make sculpture. And for me, the voice getting back to that chord, that integral, space where you're at one with the earth. I call it the equator, because there's the molten lava underneath it and you're this equator. That's how I see myself really when I'm balanced. But the chord, I was thinking also like this chord is a musical instrument that Lonnie's breaking apart, and this is music. And that's sculpture. That's how I think that's how I see performance.
Do you see sound as some form of energetic sculpture? And do you think about it in a
Definitely.
movement of sound?
Absolutely. I often think about David Hammons and the pieces that he made with the basketball, just walking the streets. I very much like when I walk, I played with this drummer recently that played with Cecil Taylor, Mark Edwards, and he's very into steps. Like every time we would get
Or like
into
exercise
rehearsal, he'd
steps.
be like, "Oh, I did this many steps." Yeah, he'd be like, "Okay, I did this many steps today." And he's a big meditator, and yeah. So for me, it's all rhythm, drumming, walking. Yeah, I think my friend Austin kind of got me back to that space uh, where everything is sound. I'm so sensitive now. I can't go to restaurants when everything's too loud. You know, I can't be in a space where I can't hear somebody. I'm a real one-to-one person. I just recently I saw well, my friend Leela Bordriel. Do you know her? Leela
No.
Bordriel. She's kind of a noise. She plays the cello. She's kind of a noise.
Mm-hmm.
She played with this Japanese guy who's actually he works in a bank, and he was wearing a suit. And I went to the front of the stage. It was it was part of the abasement show at Artist Space. And I went to the front in front of the speaker. My friend had a seat, but it was in front of the speaker. And I mean, it was like Albert Eiler style. The notes, the high notes hit me so hard. They were so loud. I mean, Leela would play on the cello, and then he would do this like very like Albert Eiler. Like he sounded like Yoko on the sax. And they would stop and they did this bass sound, which was, this like grounding sound. And then I had a panic attack. That frequency hit me so hard. I was in front of the speaker, like I had to bend over. I was like brown sound was always like the goal. Like I remember like Black Dice, like my friend Bjorn and Black Dice, he would be like, if we did the brown sound and the whole audience left, we knew we did a good gig, But for me, the brown sound now it's this erratic, like high frequency that I just cannot handle. I cannot handle it. It's the same as heights. So I think that is a sculptural thing. It's based on matter because sound is atomic. It's chemical. It's released. It's the mathematical atoms like blending. Notations are mathematical. They're like blending in space. It's all chemistry. You know, so I do see it as sculpture.
And I think you're dealing with like you've opened up so much and had to attune and pay attention to sound, and then on the flip side you become incredibly sensitive to it and it can impact you in that way.
Yeah, it's become the strongest it's ever been now.
That's beautiful. Yeah.
After
I wanted to ask you about ice sculpture, and because you do make
ice
work.
sculpture. Okay.
I think the interesting thing about ice sculpture that I wanted to ask is because it's still movement because it's melting, and so there's this aspect of performance
Oh yeah.
both in making and its aftermath.
Yeah, I see my ice sculptures as performances. And the most beautiful thing about them is that if you're not there, you don't see it melt. And when it melts, it's water. I work a lot with clay as well. So water, fire. It's almost like, you know, when the sculpture melts, it becomes this river and you can't control it. It's almost like you can't control a performance. You, if you're not there, then you lose the whole thing. Like before cell phones, you know, it's uncapturable. But the thing with water is that, I mean, now it's a political thing, of course. But, you know, you can't own it. And that's the whole thing about performance versus like a recorded album. Like you cannot own a performance as an audience member. It's not, you know, there's no capital. You know, it's basically like wampum. It's like it's like a trade with the environment that you're in and the water, and it's gone and it evaporates, and you know there's no monetary value to it unless it's corrupt. So for me, it's like the purest, like water, fire, the purest elements. You can't own them. Love that. That's how I see my ice sculptures,
Yeah, it's so interesting.
and that's why I love them. You can't own a flower.
Is performance the most exciting space for you?
Yeah. I mean, when I did this piece at MoMA, I melted an ice cube with my hands. The 433, the John Cage piece, we had to interpret that piece, and I took an ice cube and I melted it with my hands. For, I mean, imagine the kinetic energy from, you know, symphonically, you know, melting this ice cube with your hands. I mean, it really is there. There's an energetic exchange, you know, with this cube that's melting. And then, because you never know what's going to happen. And I love that. You know, it's like this phoenix always has to rise, you know, and you don't know the outcome. And that's what I love about performance. And I also love that I become the vessel. I become this being that I don't even know who I am. You know, when I'm out there, I'm just like this, like air. I'm just this. So, yeah, the conversation, the exchange with the audience, like there's nothing like it. The kinetics of that exchange. Yeah. I mean, music is the universal language.
Sure, yeah. Um, you were mentioning the volcanoes before, and I was trying to think of a visual image earlier before I spoke with you about how to describe your energy on stage or performing, whether it be a voice performance or a musical performance. And I think the eruption of a volcano and that energy and the fire coming out, I feel,
Very
well, you do
I.U.D.
many different things and your work is very interesting. I feel that is you have so much power in this. Yeah, it's wonderful.
You. I'm lucky that I can have that effect with people. I'm lucky that people feel stronger after they see me perform, but it takes everything out of me.
Yeah, sure.
It's, yeah, it's draining. It's draining. Now I have to really protect my energy. And I think that's what because really it's, you know, it's communication, you know, it's like even when I was saying like my my ex-partner, that's how we communicated, through music. Like, that's how you communicate with people. So, or at least that is how I communicate with people. And it takes a lot out of me. So I can't be on all the time. I talk about this a lot with my friend Natasha, who's an actor. It's exhausting.
Do you have a way of taking care afterwards?
I try. I mean, it's really hard for me to meditate in New York. Like I know that there's just like the struggle of existing as an artist and maintaining this pulse. It's been so difficult, and it still is difficult. It's still so difficult. But I mean, not compared to, what's happening in the world. Obviously, that affects me a lot. But yeah, I try to take care of myself as the best I can. I was burned in a performance once, and I mixed vitamin E with aloe, and I would make this sort of like balm. And so I'm very into oils and balms and teas, and I take baths. I have an amazing bathtub, and my new thing is pouring in a whole bottle of, it's really the little things that help me survive. Pouring a whole bottle of apple cider vinegar in the bath,
Oh, wow.
or if you're taking a shower, you drop essential oils. Like, this would save me on tour, because you would be so tired, and then you take like a tea tree or a eucalyptus and you just like drop it in the shower, and you're like you're in a spa, like these little things. It's almost like the joy of being progressive in life. You walk an old person down the street that needs help. I the other day, there was a guy in a wheelchair waiting for the bus, and he was having a really hard time getting up. So I walked up to him and I said, "Do you need help? Can I help you get up?" And he didn't want my help getting up. He just wanted to talk to me. Like, people just want to talk to somebody, you know? Imagine getting old in this city. Sounds horrible to me. I can't believe it when I see Joe Jonas walking her dog. I mean, I know I think she has a place somewhere else. You have to have a place, because these moments of sadness, when I realize like all this guy wants, it's like when you're in a taxi and you talk to somebody, or in the deli, like those acts are progressive acts in this lifetime.
I also think they nourish the soul as well. Just the simple things.
Exactly, like sounds. Like somebody said to me recently, Enrico David, he's the artist that shows with Tramps, who I work with, and I was kind of saying like I can't really cook in my place, and he was saying how much joy you could get from, he loves making pasta. but but he said, Liz, when you have your art, like when you go into your studio, it's always there to welcome you. It's almost like the pillow analogy. Like, it loves you. It's always there. And so you always have that to go through and go back to, and that's like the warmth. So I feel like right now, that's my warmth. That's my go-to to keep me centered. And I do take my baby steps to get there. Like, I take my walks, and I syncopate, like I talk when I walk, like I have rhythm. Like even preparing for this interview, I would walk and talk, record it.
I saw Joan Jonas recently at an event, and I also have this admiration for these older generation of people in New York and artists. And I think what they do is they're just really active, and they're going around and they're still supporting their community and showing up and participating. And it's so nice to see that.
Showing up is huge.
Yeah.
I know. Interestingly enough, Pat Hearn, who, I sang, she was my first art mentor. And she said, you work with error. I was the first person that ever spoke to me about my art. And she was like, you remind me of Joan Jonas. She was representing Joan Jonas at the time. And recently, during election night, I was asked to do a reading, and my friend Gavin put me back to back with Joan Jonas. And I was like, Gavin, do you know the story that I was just so tickled to see us back to back, I ended up playing way later, but yeah, it was such a joy. It's really about showing up. And I did a Gary Indiana tribute that night. I loved Gary. My friend said he was the jewel of the art world, the gem of the art world, Gary Indiana. He was the first person I ever fanned out on. I know that sounds crazy, but my family, like my mom was very supportive. Like she would buy me Art Forum, Art in America, Flash Art. Like I have subscriptions to Performance. I had all these subscriptions to all these magazines. And so I would read a lot of Gary Indiana's art reviews. And also every weekend I would jump on the train. There was no holding me back. I would go to like Free Tibet concerts in Washington Square Park. And, I would get a poem, like I would pay for a poem in the park, that kind of thing. But Gary, I knew he hung out at this gay bar. It was the first Cock in New York. The Cock has moved several times, but I saw him. I knew he hung out here. I don't know how. 12th Street. And I walked into the bar. I think I was like 18. And I introduced myself. I said, I'm a huge fan of yours. My name's Lizzie. I just walked into the gay bar. And he was sitting on the end. It was like a real Bukowski moment. I mean, the only time I've ever fanned out on anybody before where I became speechless was Elizabeth Fraser. She was wearing a white dress and it was glowing like a Namjoon Pike. And yeah, she was playing with Massive Attack and we were playing too at the Brooklyn Bowl. And I just couldn't say anything because she was lit up in a white paper dress and I just couldn't say anything. That's the only time I was starstruck. But she was literally lit up by paper, like white paper, squares. I mean, it was visually shocking. Like,
it'd be hard to get close to it.
That. Yeah, exactly. And I think getting close to her freaks me out. Sure. It's kind of like you don't want to meet somebody you really respect. I mean, I've met everybody. Yeah. But I did fan out on the singer of Saccharine Trust and the singer of Pear Ubu. I mean, I'm just a freak. I'm just a real, just a noise girl.
Good freak.
Yeah, just a like punk noise girl. That's what I always wanted to be. I just wanted people to see me as, the girl that was in that band that, made a stamp and, and then one day, the person that told me that I lived my dad's dream, she said, "Well, you are that girl." She said that. It's very sweet.
Do you think it was also your dream?
To be a singer?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, I remember the moment. I mean, besides the throbbing gristle moment, I used to be a ballet dancer. I was on stage. I was Clara in the Nutcracker. Or maybe it was Black Swan. It might have been Black Swan, but I had a lead role. And the whole stage was like pitch black. And I had to look in, like, I just looked at this light. I looked at this light that was in the corner of the stage. I was on stage, lead role, by myself. Everything else was pitch black. And I looked at that light and I was like, this is where I'm supposed to be. Like, this is, like, I'm getting chills thinking about it right now. But I remember that moment so vividly, looking into that light, everything black, and just realizing that this is the place that I could tell a story. This is the place where I'm going to connect with people. This is the place where everything is stripped. Your ego, everything is stripped to such a bare. This is where, like, Earth. This is like Earth, It's something that it's just something that you can't own. It's there. It's be here now. It's just, that's when I knew that was going to be my home, my stage. The stage was going to be my home.
Yeah, that's such a powerful memory.
I know. It was very powerful. I think I was like 16 or like 15.
I have one more question I want to ask you before we finish up, and that is, what do you celebrate?
Oh. Well, my band Gang Gang did just have, they just, we just had a 25-year existence, even though it's not. I mean, I didn't hear from my bandmates on the day, but I celebrated it. I don't know. It's really the little things. My friend said, the joy of Lizzi on stage is like the joy she gets from making a cup of coffee. Like, there's just no difference. She, I do get so much joy when I make a cup of coffee. Or peanut sauce, or it's just these little things. But celebration, I love peanut sauce. My new thing is fire water in the morning. My friend stayed with me. We played with that band Coca Rosie, and Bianca and I became friends, and she taught me this ritual thing where you put fire cider in water and then you just like heat it up. It's basically like apple cider vinegar with honey. It's all the right things, but it's the best tonic in the morning. So celebration, I guess the people close to me. I celebrate water. I celebrate fire. I do have some native ancestry. Oglala, Dakota Sioux. So Standing Rock was a big thing for me. But I remember one day I wrote down something, and I was in the backyard at my mom's house and I buried it in the dirt. And then she saw me and she's like, "What were you doing?" And I was like, "Oh, I was just burying a thought." And she was like, "Oh, I do that all the time." So it just that side, there, you don't even have to speak about it. It's just wampum. That's the native side. We just don't have to talk about it. You just give, my mom is very humble. Anywhere that I went in the world, I would say, "What do you want?" Just bring me a rock. So I'd always have to bring her a rock from whether I played a Pelican Reserve in, Nevada or the Sydney Opera House or Fuji Rock. I just had to bring a rock. So she's my rock. Whoops.
Well, thank you, Lizzi, for speaking with me.
Thank you.
I'm so blessed to talk to you. I could continue just hearing many of the stories you've got to share. But I think we're very fortunate to have you in New York and creating and sharing your work. So I hope that continues, and I'm really excited to see what comes out of your next work and performance.
Thank you. I'm gearing up.
Yeah.
My phone is blowing up right now. They're like texting for me to join the recording studio today. I have to finish some collages. But thank you.
Thank you.
The next one, we'll see. I'm waiting. It's not time for Rome yet, but there's something in London brewing up inside of me, for sure.
Thank you for listening to We Are Art People. You can listen to full episodes on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. We are online at www.weareartpeople.com. Sign up to our newsletter for show updates and happenings, and please share with someone who may enjoy listening. See you next time.